My name is Connie, and I welcome you to my free spirit little garden here in Lowell, Florida. When I bought the property, it hadn't been lived on in literally decades, so this didn't just happen overnight. Throughout the garden here, there's garden paths of the old brick, so the general store lives on. And then I had 2 cracker houses on the property. There's bird feeders and bird houses with the recycled wood and the little tin roofs and all that, so it all lives on. What gardening means to me personally is actually touching the earth. Everybody says, well, what's your favorite tool? My favorite tool are these 2 hands right here. And I love the feel of the earth. I love looking at the flowers. I love combining, as I said earlier, textures, different leaf shapes, because I'm pretty much in the woods. I get dappled light, so flowers don't bloom quite as profusely as they would if I had a whole lot of sunlight. Therefore, I rely on patterns, shapes, colors of leaves. This is another example of using different textures. These are all native grasses, well, with the exception of the aloe blooming right now. The hummingbirds will be in later tomorrow morning to feed on that. But this is just a real pretty area, particularly in the fall and the winter, because they all bloom, they have their plumes up, and they're all different colors. And I don't know, I'm very partial to grasses, and just the different textures of the grasses to me is just kind of neat and appealing. Back when I had nothing better to do, I made birdhouses, and so this is with the little tin roof and the original little cracker house siding and everything. And I was also talking about, because I don't have a lot of flowers all the time because of no sun, mixing textures of different leaves and so forth. So you have the very giant staghorn fern here, and the elkhorn and the rabbit or the kangaroo. But then right behind that, pulling in texture, is a big clump of lady palm, and which is really nice palm if you have shade. And it is a clumping palm, don't get the running kind. And so it's a really nice example. Okay, I wanted to point out this cardboard cycad here. This is a really unusual plant. It's not a fern and it's not a palm. This is one of the old, in fact, this plant, not this one in particular, but this species of plant is actually prehistoric, and just quite an interesting plant. Behind that, then I have bromeliads. What I've tried to do here in the garden is keep like plants together, and plants that want basically the same type of moisture or sun or shade or dappled or whatever. But this is an interesting one, and then I'll show you an even neater cycad. But this one has quite a nice history. This is a cedar tree, and it's not just a cedar tree. This was the very first Christmas tree I had when after I moved on the property. And Charlie Brown would be very proud. I went and I dug it up at the edge of the woods, and it couldn't have been up to my knee. So here we are today, 30-something years later. It's a nice place to hang the orchids and the Hoyas and all that neat stuff. Most of the plants in this garden right here are native plants, and they are probably the best plants to have because, boy, they put up with everything. And they evolved here in the area, consequently native plants, and so they're just a good bet to have for a real good hardy plant. This one right here is kind of interesting. It's called Rattlesnake Master, and it's a little ouchy, but it's a good pollinator. All the little native bees come in, and the butterflies and everything. And here again, it going back to the Native Americans, They used, I'm not quite sure what part of this plant, in treatment of rattlesnake bites. Consequently, the name Rattlesnake Master. To what success they had, I have no idea, but it's just kind of a nice story with a nice plant. And then the rest of these plants all blooming back here, these are mostly natives. Native firebush again, and just a really nice, comfortable native bed. This is a cycad, one of the oldest plants on the face of the earth. This is called Coontie. It is a Florida native. It's also the host of Attila butterfly, which is on the endangered list. But this thing, I don't think I have seen one bigger in all my life. And it's a slow grower. But as I said, you'll see fossils of these things. They're that old. And it's just a neat plant to have. Coontie, cycad. This is another native plant. This is a Crinum lily, spider lily to be exact, and it is really, really old. This thing was at the Lowell General Store when I first got the property. So it was just kind of, in fact, it was about this size then. And I do have his twin sister on the other side here. I split it. But anyhow, so I borrowed a friend and a friend's truck and the friend's chainsaw and the friend's chain and everything. And somehow or other, we got this thing out of the ground, hauled it over here. I split it in half here and half over there. And here it is today, still with us. This one here is probably one of my most favorite plants in the whole garden. Somebody gave me a cutting, probably about, I don't know, 20 years ago or so. So I planted it and it started to do this. I took it to the master gardeners because I didn't know what it was, and the lady who gave me the cutting, she didn't know what it was. So none of our agents knew what it was either. So we had to send a sample of the plant and the flower up to the University of Florida to be ID'd. Come to find out, this is called, it's a Pinwheel Jasmine. It's also called Crepe Jasmine. And it's just a pretty, pretty, pretty flower. And I like the fact that it's one of those pass-along plants. This part of the property is where the three cracker houses, or the three structures, were when I bought the property. Actually, I take that back. I had 4 structures on this property. I had the general store clear over there in the corner, and then I had the 2 old homesteads, but right between the 2 homestead houses, I had the neatest outhouse with a pink toilet seat. And I'll remember that forever, that pink toilet seat. But this was all just homestead property, and as I said, it was just really, really neat to have those old houses here, and I sure do miss them. But I still have the view. Any last thought would really probably be the importance of this place to me. The woods over here, and I have about 5 acres of woods, came up for sale on an estate. And I was vacillating whether to get it or not. And you know how you instinctively duck if you feel like something's going over your head? Well, I looked up, and the biggest eagle I have ever seen in my life flew right over my head, out into the woods, and landed on the top of a high dead tree. Well, there's this Native American belief that if an eagle casts its shadow on you, you have been deemed a protector of the earth. So that sealed the deal, and I bought that. And I've been here ever since, working the land, and hopefully keeping it as long as I can from development and further intrusion. And it would mean so much to see it, as I said before, and I don't mean to repeat myself, but if it can't stay in the family, to go to somebody who does appreciate the land, the plants, and just the whole history of the place, because little towns like Lowell aren't anymore, and these little cracker houses aren't anymore. A general store isn't anymore, but the memory is there, and I just want that to live.